What if everything you know about the beginning is only half the story? Long before Genesis, a silent war cracked the heavens open, a battle so ancient its echoes still shake our world today. You're not just living life, you're walking through the ruins of a forgotten rebellion, ready to uncover the hidden war that shaped humanity itself. You know, before anything was set into motion, there was this eerie, almost deafening silence hanging over the heavens. It wasn't just a regular hush, like when you're waiting for a big announcement. It was the kind of silence that crackles with unspoken tension. Picture a grand hall filled with celestial beings, exchanging looks heavy with unsaid thoughts, their luminous forms flickering ever so slightly. They all knew something huge was about to shake the foundations of existence itself. That quiet wasn't peace, it was the breath held before the storm. Some say the first whisper of rebellion was born not in shouts, but in sideways glances and small hesitations. It's funny, right? You'd think such powerful beings, shimmering with divine light, would be immune to doubts, but even the brightest star can tremble. Just like today, when a small thought plants itself in your mind, maybe about switching careers or leaving a relationship, it grows if you let it. That silent tension was exactly that, the seed of the oldest spiritual battle we know. And boy, did the stakes get high real fast. This wasn't just about personal pride or ego. It was a cosmic wrestling match over free will and the divine plan itself. Imagine you're at a family dinner and someone quietly questions a long-standing tradition. Maybe it's about who gets to carve the turkey. Seems small, right? But suddenly, you've got years of unspoken grievances boiling up. That's how delicate the balance was among the celestial beings back then. Even the air, if you could call it that, seemed thicker, charged with invisible electricity. Like when you walk into a room and you know two people just had a fight, even if they're smiling. The unseen currents were already shifting, preparing for a cosmic war no one wanted to name out loud. We often forget that the first battleground wasn't Earth. It was right there, in the secret hearts of beings meant to embody pure harmony. Some celestial beings, it seems, started to wonder if sticking to the script was really their only choice. That's the sneaky thing about independence. It sounds noble, but without alignment to something greater, it can spiral fast. Think about how a team falls apart when even one player starts playing for their own stats instead of the group's win. The silence of the heavens was pregnant with a brewing storm of chaos. This invisible rift didn't explode all at once. Oh no, it simmered. Slowly the tension coiled tighter, weaving itself into every glance, every unspoken thought. It reminds me of how sometimes you don't see a relationship falling apart until it's too late. Small things build up in the quiet moments. That same kind of slow, inevitable spiral marked the beginning of the ancient conflict we're still tangled in today. You can almost picture the scene. A grand symphony where, one by one, a few notes go slightly off-key. At first, you think it's nothing, but then the disharmony grows until the entire melody threatens to collapse. That's exactly what happened among the celestial beings. They were caught between loyalty to the divine plan and the alluring whisper of free will unchecked. And so in that silent tension, the seeds of an unimaginable rebellion were sown, ones that would ripple through all of time, space, and humanity itself. And just like that, the stage was set for the birth of rebellion, the next act in this invisible yet all too real saga. The silence finally broke, not with a shout, but with a murmur. Somewhere in the vast expanse, a few radiant beings dared to question the wisdom of the divine plan. Why, they wondered, would beings of such splendor have to bow to a creation made of dust and breath? That little ripple of independence didn't seem like much at first, but like a tiny crack in glass, it spread fast, splitting loyalties that once seemed unshakable. It's wild when you think about it, how doubt, once it creeps in, can tear through even the most perfect structures. These celestial beings, once united like a flawless choir, began choosing sides without even realizing it. It's the same thing that happens in companies, churches, even families. When the vision is unclear or questioned, rebellion quietly slips through the back door. Before long, the harmony that once filled the heavens started to sound off. Imagine a workplace where half the team starts whispering that the boss is making a huge mistake. Little by little, meetings get tenser, smiles turn forced, and the real work grinds to a halt. That's what was happening in the highest realms, a subtle but devastating division. And once trust cracks, it's almost impossible to patch it up without some serious scars. This invisible war wasn't loud yet, but it was already rewriting the future. At the center of it all was one idea: free will. Should these exalted beings just accept the new world order without question, or should they seize the chance to carve their own destinies, to break away from what felt like chains disguised as loyalty? It's a question that echoes even today. Every time someone chooses between duty and desire, free will is powerful. But oh man, it's a double-edged sword. There's a hard truth here most people don't talk about. Rebellion often dresses itself up as wisdom. It's sneaky like that. It starts with a harmless question like, "Are we sure this is the best way?" and soon snowballs into full-blown mutiny. Real life mirrors this every day. Companies crumble, friendships implode, nations collapse, not because of a massive blowout, but because of thousands of tiny, tolerated doubts. And if you think celestial beings were immune to pride, think again. Some of them couldn't stomach the idea of bowing to beings like us, fragile, emotional, wildly unpredictable. Their radiance made them forget that humility was part of the original design. That pride, my friend, wasn't just a feeling. It was the spark that lit the fuse for the cosmic war that was about to tear the heavens apart. There's a bitter irony here too. Those who wanted more freedom ended up enslaving themselves to their own ambitions. Happens all the time today, right? Someone throws away a steady life, chasing true freedom, only to find themselves deeper in chaos. That ancient rebellion wasn't just about power. It was about a fundamental misunderstanding of what true greatness looks like. As celestial hearts grew colder and divisions deepened, the stage was set for something even bigger, a complete unraveling that would spill from the spiritual realm into the brand new canvas of creation. And that's when we find ourselves stepping into the messy, magnificent moment captured in Genesis. Most folks crack open Genesis and think they're reading the first page of existence, but here's the kicker. It's not the ultimate beginning. It's the beginning after the beginning. Picture walking into a house that's already been through a nasty break-in. The furniture's overturned, windows shattered. The chaos isn't the start, it's the aftermath. That's what Genesis hints at, a fresh start after a colossal fall. The ancient texts say the earth was formless and void, right? That's not exactly a blank canvas. It's a crime scene. Chaos was already lurking in the corners before the first seeds of order were planted. You can almost hear the silent screams of a cosmic war that had torn through the heavens, leaving invisible scars stitched into the very soil of creation. When God spoke light into being, it wasn't just art. It was an act of war against the darkness. Think about how we rebuild after natural disasters. First, we clear the wreckage. Then, we lay the foundation again. Genesis is kind of like that moment when the bulldozers clear the rubble and a new blueprint gets slapped on the table. It's why resilience is such a superpower. In your own life, if you've ever had to start from scratch after a betrayal, a failure or a personal crisis, you're living your own tiny version of this cosmic reboot. The fascinating thing is how order was declared, step by step, against the stubborn backdrop of rebellion's leftovers. Every "let there be" in Genesis was like a trumpet blast in the middle of a battlefield, pushing back the lingering whispers of the invisible war. You want a practical takeaway? Next time your life feels like a total mess, instead of panicking, start naming your steps. Let there be peace in my mind. Let there be discipline in my habits. You're echoing a divine strategy. And man, the tension was still thick. Even as oceans rolled back and stars blinked into place, the seeds of past conflict lay buried, deep beneath the surface. It's like building a skyscraper on land that's seen earthquakes. You can build, sure, but you better know what's lurking under your feet. The story of Genesis isn't a fairy tale about perfection. It's a war journal of hope, clawing its way through ruins. Ever tried to organize your life after a major emotional earthquake? It's like taming a hurricane with a coffee straw. Yet, that's exactly what the divine plan pulled off, an ordered world rising defiantly from the ashes of rebellion. So next time you're overwhelmed, remember, the chaos you're facing isn't always proof you're failing. Sometimes it's just proof that you're rebuilding after an ancient conflict most people don't even realize they're part of. But even as Eden bloomed in fresh splendor, the shadows of that ancient conflict weren't gone. They were just quiet, watching, waiting. Humanity was about to step onto a battlefield disguised as paradise. And spoiler alert, it wasn't long before the serpent slithered into the story, whispering age-old promises of independence that had already undone so much. Most people picture Eden like some glossy postcard. Butterflies, waterfalls, a couple of perfect humans smiling under rainbows. Cute, but way off. Eden wasn't just a garden, it was a front line. Humanity got dropped smack in the middle of an ancient battlefield, and they didn't even get a warning sign. The invisible war wasn't over. It had just gotten sneaky, trading swords for whispers. The serpent wasn't just some random talking animal having a bad day. Nope, he was a veteran of the oldest rebellion, carrying the poison of independence that had already wrecked so much. Imagine handing your kid a set of car keys without explaining what red lights mean. That's how vulnerable Adam and Eve were. Eden was stunning, sure, but it was also crawling with the consequences of a cosmic fallout. Ever notice how temptations in life come wrapped in shiny packages? That's no accident. The serpent offered the same old song, independence from divine wisdom, dressed up like freedom. Today, we still fall for the same pitch. You know better. You don't need anyone. It's why even smart people can make catastrophic choices. If you want to armor up, start practicing small acts of humility daily, like asking for advice from someone wiser instead of assuming you've got it all figured out. Eden wasn't a static utopia. It was the opening chess move in humanity's role in this ancient conflict. Think about that. Your life is part of a game that started before the first sunrise. Every small decision you make, truth or lie, love or resentment, is a square moved on that cosmic board. If that doesn't make your next choice feel heavier and holier, I don't know what will. Here's a twist. The fall of man wasn't about eating fruit. It was about misplacing trust. The real serpent's venom wasn't in his words. It was in the tension he planted between humanity and their creator. Happens today too, right? A little doubt, a small fear, a tiny rebellion, and boom, you're spiraling. One of the best defenses? Stay plugged into wisdom daily. Read Proverbs, meditate on Psalms, stuff your spirit with truth before the lies. Even get a chance. Eden wasn't just the beginning of humanity. It was a pressure cooker where the spiritual battle lines hardened. Even after the fall, you can trace the fingerprints of that ancient chaos all over human history. Wars, betrayals, broken dreams. They're echoes of that same invisible war raging on, just wearing different masks now. And here's the kicker. The battlefield wasn't just out there somewhere. It moved inside. Inside hearts, inside choices, inside every tiny yes and no that builds or breaks destinies. If you ever wonder why life feels like a constant wrestling match between light and darkness, well, you're living proof that Eden's story never really ended. But the war doesn't just drag on forever with no end in sight. Nah, there's a prophecy that one day everything twisted will be untwisted, everything broken will be healed. And trust me, the final confrontation is going to be bigger than anything Hollywood ever dreamed up. The old war didn't just stay trapped in the pages of ancient scrolls. Nope, it's humming under our skin right now. Every act of kindness, every choice toward bitterness, every whisper of fear or leap of faith, you're playing your part in a spiritual battle older than dirt. It's like living inside an epic novel, only the stakes are way higher than just good storytelling. You ever feel that weird tension before making a tough decision? That pull between what's easy and what's right? That's not just you overthinking things. It's the invisible war flexing its muscles in real time. Remember, you're not just battling circumstances. You're caught between forces of light and darkness that have been at odds since before Genesis even kicked off. And get this, prophecies sprinkled all through Scripture hint that we're heading toward a final confrontation. We're not just wandering around aimlessly. History is barreling toward a cosmic showdown that'll make every blockbuster look like a school play. Revelation peels back the curtain and shows the finale. No more half measures, no more gray areas, just an epic collision between chaos and order, rebellion and restoration. It's crazy, right? Most people live like we're just random dots on a giant map, but the truth is, you're part of a divine plan way bigger than mortgage payments and social media drama. You've got a role to play in this ancient cosmic war, whether you like it or not. Feeling overwhelmed? Start by sharpening your spirit. Pray daily, stay alert, and surround yourself with people who actually nourish your soul instead of draining it. Now, let's get a little real. Staying neutral is a myth. Silence in this war is still a choice, one the darker forces are counting on. Picture a soccer match where half the players decide to just sit on the field and scroll their phones. Yeah, that's how chaos wins. So if you're serious about standing your ground, it's time to get off the sidelines. Start small. Stand for truth when it's inconvenient. Be kind when it's easier to be cold. Forgive when you want revenge. Don't think for a second this is just religious talk. Look at human history. Patterns of rebellion, independence, fall and renewal are everywhere. It's the rhythm of an old song humanity keeps dancing to without even realizing it. The wars, the betrayals, the brokenness, they're scars from battles fought not just in palaces and parliaments, but in hearts. Now, the question hanging heavy in the air is, where will you stand when the final trumpet sounds? Revelation doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. You're either advancing the light or getting swept up by the chaos. Spoiler alert, playing it safe isn't really an option. But here's the good news. Every act of faith today strengthens your side in the battle that's still unfolding. And between the lines of this ongoing war, whispers of an unstoppable prophecy echo louder each day, hinting at a time when the old scars will heal, the silence will shatter, and the heavens themselves will roar in victory. The truth is, we are living in the middle of a story that began before time itself. What happened before Genesis wasn't just a cosmic footnote. It was the spark of a war that has shaped every breath of humanity. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." This battle is invisible, but its impact is written on every heart. Understanding this ancient conflict gives you a clearer lens to view the chaos around you. Wars, betrayals, broken dreams, they're not random. They're echoes of a rebellion that started with beings greater than ourselves who chose independence over obedience. And now, here we are, still wrestling between light and darkness with every choice we make. The Bible doesn't sugarcoat it. Jesus himself warned in John 10:10, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." There's a real enemy at work behind the scenes, seeking to pull you away from your true purpose. But the divine plan hasn't changed. God is still calling us back to Eden, back to communion, back to victory. So, what do we do in a world marked by a war we can't see? We stand firm. We cling to the promises of God. We walk by faith and not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Every small act of obedience, every moment of surrender, every step of trust, it all matters more than you can imagine. You are not powerless. You were born for such a time as this. Prophecy points to a final showdown, a cosmic culmination where Christ returns to crush the serpent's head once and for all. Genesis 3:15, Revelation 19:11-16. Imagine being part of the generation that witnesses the heavens roar and the old wounds healed. Revelation isn't a book of fear, it's a manual of hope for those who endure. And listen, silence is no longer an option. Every day you have a choice to align your life with the divine plan or drift into the chaos of rebellion. Joshua's bold words still echo today. "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Joshua 24:15. What side of history do you want to stand on when the final trumpet sounds? Friend, don't walk away from this truth unchanged. Dig deep, pray boldly. Live as if the unseen war is just as real as the ground under your feet, because it is. Read the word, stay alert, build a life that heaven recognizes and hell fears. The greatest battles are often fought in the silence of our daily choices. If this message stirred something inside you, don't let it end here. Join us at Light of Grace, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's walk this incredible journey of truth, light, and victory together. Your story is part of something eternal. Let's live like it.